This week, In Defense of Ska would like to give a special shout out to Patreon subscriber Kevin WK. Kevin was our 69th subscriber, bringing our total to $311. Patreon is instrumental in helping us keep our podcast sustainable. We can't thank you enough if you already subscribe. And if you've been on the fence for a while, please join. It's only a few bucks. We have so many ideas we'd like to push forward with In Defense of Ska, and your subscription helps us move towards that goal. You can be like Kevin WK. Think about it. Patron 420, pushing our monthly goal towards $1,312. So think it over. And for now, on with the show.
Ska is often the punching bag in comedy, so that's why it's always refreshing to bring on openly ska-loving comedians on the show. There are more now than there were a decade ago, but one of the first comedians to proudly wave the ska flag is Brandie Posey. She has been bringing it up on podcasts as long as people have been requesting interviews, and she was even interviewed in the film Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s. Brandie tells us how ska impacted her approach to comedy and why it's the greatest genre of all time.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Ska.
Ska who?
I don't know. It's just a silly way to open an episode with a comedian on it. I don't know.
You didn't do that for Ian Fidance.
I didn't do that for Ian. I should have done that for Ian, though.
Yeah. Knock, knock.
Oh, who's there?
Ian Fidance.
Ian Fidance. I know who Ian Fidance is, though. This is enough about Ian, though. We're talking about Brandie.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that we've had several comedians on now at this point.
Yes.
I'd like to continue that trend.
Yes. Ska-loving comedians. If you're a ska-loving comedian, you have a home here and In Defense of Ska.
I loved hearing in this episode, Brandie talks about what's in her yard. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
I've since been looking at her Instagram, and I love seeing the thing that's in her yard.
All right. So you were in the film Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s.
Yes. Yeah, I am. It was a very big honor to be one of the few non-ska musicians in that movie. When I finally saw it, I was like, oh man, thanks, Taylor. This is awesome.
I remember Adam and I saw that movie in San Francisco, like in early 2019. And at the time, I was the music editor at the Good Times in Santa Cruz. And I remember there was DNA's Comedy Lab there.
Uh-huh.
And there was a comedian named Brandie Posey that was playing. This was like a couple months later. And I was like, where do I know that name? And I Googled you, and then like I saw like your bio, something. I love ska music. I was like, oh, that's right. She was in Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s. She was the ska comedian.
Yep. I'm the OG ska comedian. You hear that, Ian? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know who was not in Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s is Ian Fidance, the supposed ska king of comedy.
I know. Well, it's so funny because Ian used to host the East Coast version of a show that I started here in LA. So he has been my East Coast like twin in a lot of different ways because I don't drink. I never did. Ian's sober. We both love ska music. The first time we met, we were both like, oh, we're just like two exclamation points that love real big fish. Okay, great. Perfect. This is going to be so great.
What's the show that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a show called Picture This, and it's comedians paired up with animators, and they live animate your jokes behind you during your set, and you get to interact with them, so it kind of throws you off, and it's like, do you remember that old Looney Tune cartoon? It's called Duck Amuck, and it's Bugs Bunny as an artist erasing Daffy and like redrawing him and just like messing with him.
Oh yeah,
classic. Yeah.
That's the entire vibe of the show. And it's a blast. And this is our 10th year doing it here in LA. And I think it's been going for 7 years in New York. Ian was our host for like 5 or 6 of those years. He's too busy and travels too much now, but of course, because he's killing it. But he's a part of the Picture This family. And funny story about it, actually, it ties to ska. We have taken Picture This to the Kennedy Center twice. And the second time we did it, Ian came down and we had him there. And then on our way back to the hotel. They put us up the Watergate, which was weird.
That's really
place
weird
to stay. I had taken us all on like a lift to go get chili dogs or something. On our way back, I was like, hey, I got to see a guy. And I changed the location to the Lincoln Memorial. And it was like me, Ian Fidance, my friend Zia, and Danny Tamborelli. We just went to the Lincoln Memorial at 3 a.m. And then Ian played us his ska band on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And we had a tiny skank party like after our show at the Kennedy Center.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Ian's ska band?
I mean, it's of a time, and I love it. It makes me feel like my knees don't hurt when I hear music like that.
Yeah. Tell us the story about you getting into that film. Taylor just reached out to you?
Yeah. So I've been a ska evangelist in comedy for a long time. I yell about it constantly to most comedians, just as like hey, you're depressed. This might help. And it usually does if they get past it. But there's another podcast called The Dork Forest that a comedian called Jackie Cation has. Jackie is amazing. She's been touring for 30, 40 years. She's awesome. And on The Dork Forest, you come on and you talk about your dorkdom. And nobody had ever done ska music, and she asked me to come do it. And I was like, oh, I will come on and like talk about ska, because Jackie is a woman in her late 40s, and she had no idea what the hell I was even talking about. Then by the end of it, I made her a playlist, and she still listens to it sometimes. So I turned her onto that. And then Taylor, I think he either listened to that podcast, or I think he was just Googling ska podcast. And then that one, it was before you guys had started. So like it hadn't come up. And then I was like the one episode that came up about ska ever. And he was like, oh, let me reach out to her. And I immediately, we bonded almost immediately, as all ska fans do. I just did like the rundown of, hey, here's the 30 bands that shaped my life. And then he came to my house and recorded me put me on celluloid forever.
So what are those 30 bands, or what was on the playlist that you made? Just, you don't have to give us all 30, but just, a sampling.
Well, I mean, I'm a child I was a 1984 baby. So I'm a third wave is what I came up in. I listen to probably more two-tone now, just in my regular life, just because I just need to be calmed down. I don't need to pick it up quite as much. I'm on Twitter too much. I don't need to pick it up more than I already do. But like, so, you're like your standards, like your Rubik Fisher Less Than Jake's, your Midnight Bosstones. I feel like I just heard somebody writing. It's so funny. I mean, like, oh my gosh, I'm literally going to pull it up as we're talking right now. I bet I still have it. And I didn't want to, it's a pretty basic list, because I didn't want to like scare her off with anything too crazy. And I was like, what are like the best ways in? I know there's some slackers on it. Where are you? Where are you, Scott?
You got to find those like accessible, those ska songs that people are gonna be just open to.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I think, for Jackie, because here it is, Dork Forest Ska Party. Starts off with Judge Not by the Interrupters as just you're about to listen to a ska playlist, The Open Minded. And then I've got like the Interrupters, Agrolites, Bedouin Sound Clash, which is controversial potentially, but I felt like that's a song she might like. Beebs and Her Moneymakers, Pie Tasters, Bandits of the Acoustics Revolution, The Tide is High by Blondie, because I feel like that's like, oh, she'll know that one, and then maybe keep going. Dan P and the Bricks, Goldfinger, more Pie Tasters, Hepcat, Robic Fish, Less Than Jake, some Littlest Man band, Suburban Legends, Madness, Specials, Bosstones, Toasters, Westbound Train, Melbourne Ska Orchestra. Let's see what else is on here. The Sami Zayn theme song, because I thought that would be a really fun thing to throw on there, because it has a ska theme, which is amazing. And then Skanking Pickle. And that's the playlist that I made Jackie that she still listens to sometimes.
Now, if you were making a playlist where you wanted to freak somebody out about ska, what would be the first song you would put?
Oh my gosh. What would be the first song for something like that? I mean, God, I am so bad at titles. And this has been my anxiety of doing this podcast is like, you don't know the titles or album names. I don't have like a brain for that kind of stuff.
Well, you can just give us a band name.
Oh, I mean, like I'm a Real Big Fish baby. I definitely am. They were my first concert of all time. So I would probably start off with something from them. The first concert ever was at the 930 Club. It was Teen Heroes, Zebrahead, and Real Big Fish in 1998. Do I still have the work shirt that I got from that tour? Absolutely. Remember the gasoline work shirt? It said Ronnie's Body Shop, and then Real Big Fish in the back of it.
Did you skank that whole show?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny because growing up, my brother was like a BMX rider, and we toured we spent the summers like going to nationals all over the country, and I was like a kid that just wanted to read books and like not talk to BMX bros all the time. And I remember the summer before seeing Real Big Fish, I'd gotten like a real big I'd gotten Why Do We Rock So Hard and then Losing Streak from Less Than Jake. And I just remember going around in that summer with my family, just with a stack of books, and then going CD to CD back and forth. Just like, I'm just going to listen to, I was like an emo kid, but I was listening to ska instead. Just like, oh, I'll just be over here. Nobody understands. Like, which is also, I think, why Real Big Fish has always like spoken to me, because like Aaron's lyrics are very dark and sad often. And I'm like, yeah, but they're funny. And that tends to be, I consider them a pretty big influence on my comedy as well, actually, because of that. It's
got emo energy, but it's fun.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I remember I used to be homies with him for a few years. And I remember, because I went to college in Philly. And when I went to school there, I kind of picked Philly because from Philly, you can get to Baltimore, D.C., New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Boston all within 4 hours, basically. So if one of my favorite bands would come to town, I could see them easily every night of the week after classes. And that was like what I would do. So I became like, me and Aaron were homies. And I remember the first time that they played with Johnny Christmas was at a, up at Ithaca, in upstate New York. And it was the night before I had a big final, but I was like, I got to see who the hell the new trumpet player is. And I just like drove to Ithaca. And this is like such a moment, because this is like the co-headliners. It was Real Big Fish and Dashboard Confessional.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and Dashboard played second and Real Big Fish played first. And like, I just remember like Aaron just like putting on a Dashboard hoodie and just like singing Vindicated at the top of his lungs, just like loving it so much. And then I was like, this is a blast. I'm having fun. I need to drive 4 hours because I have a final in 5 hours. But it was worth it.
I don't think it's like necessarily uncommon that comedians are fans of ska, but you don't necessarily hear a lot about it from them. And especially like 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
When you started talking about it, you must have known that you were kind of standing out on a limb.
Oh, for sure. But I've always been very like, it's very hard to shame me for stuff. Like even when I started stand up, like I've always like the DIY spirit of like punk and ska has been such a big part of me forever that like, 6 months into me even starting stand up, I was running an open mic that became like one of the biggest open mics in the city. And I played ska music between people because I was like, this will keep the energy up all night long, you guys. And it did. It really helped. And also, like, it was funny because I also had weird cachet at the time when I started, because, like, whenever Aaron wasn't on tour, he would come to my open mic and just, like, watch comedy, basically. And people would be like, what the fuck? Why is the guy from Real Big Fish at this open mic? And I'd be like, who is this comedian? And I'd be like, don't worry about it. I'm funny.
He came to check out all the ska in between sets.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, because I would do covers for a while just to like get people like, oh, okay, I know this song. Like they're the split that Real Big Fish did with oh gosh, what is that band? They did a split with a band that has a lady lead singer, and it is a delight. God, my brain is a nightmare. It is called Duet All Night Long, and it's Zoloft the Rock and Roll Destroyer is the other band.
Oh, okay.
That's it. And they have a bunch of like 80s covers that are ska versions of it. And I would like use that playlist to kind of like be like, okay, I'm playing ska, but you guys know the songs I'm playing. Don't worry about it.
Did you ever during one of these shows put on Real Big Fish just to see what Aaron's reaction would be?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
How did that go?
He would like roll his eyes and then become like even smaller and more shy.
Adam and I have a band called Narboots. And it's all like electronic, but we have one ska song.
That's also electronic.
It's also electronic, but it's ska, and it's about Mike Park. And whenever he would come to see us play, and whenever we play that song, like he just disappear.
Just leave the room.
Yeah, he just leave the room.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's yeah, I know that. Like, no, I can't have anything sincere. No, it's so funny because I feel like so many ska musicians are very similar to comedians in that, like, when they want attention, they want to be completely in control of that attention. And if they're not, then I'm just going to go be a wallflower. That's much more comfortable to me.
Yep. You played, or you performed comedy at Fest last year, right?
Mm-hmm. It's my fifth Fest was last year.
Your fifth Fest. I've never been to Fest myself. Adam has. I've always wanted to go. It's just far away. But what is the comedy portion of Fest like? I've always been curious about that.
Well, it's nice because like there's comedy festivals, there's music festivals that have comedy. And at a music festival that has comedy, which is like Fest, there's no industry there. So you can just like goof off and like there's the weird pressures that are there when you're like, oh God, there's agents watching me. Like that stuff isn't there. And you can do more like weird type, weird comedy or just be a little bit more loosey goosey, which like Fest kind of lends itself to too. And I think that like Fest specifically does a great job of booking stand-ups that we all do a lot of like DIY touring and stuff like that. Like I've played comedy clubs. They're not my favorite thing. I prefer music venues, like fun, like weird dive bars and stuff like that, because I find that like the people that come out to that stuff are much more my people anyway. And so at Fest, usually this last year, they changed the times up a little bit because everything was a little bit weird from COVID. But usually what happens is there's a Saturday and a Sunday showcase. And they start at 1 p.m. and they go until 4 o'clock. And it's just comics doing 8-minute sets. And it's just like all day. And it's awesome because then at 4 o'clock you are done and you get to bands start around that time. So then you as a comic get to just like go and just go watch everything else and you aren't missing anything. And on the Sunday of Fest is amazing too, because that's when that showcase weirdly is the better one because it gets packed out with all these like punks who are like, I want to see something live and I'm hungover, but I can't handle music yet. So they come to the comedy show and they just have a blast and are just down to laugh. And like Fest is so fun because you can throw out weird references. Like my friend Goodrich has a great character called Tommy Crowbar, who's like a Boston hardcore guy. And he can only do it at Fest because he just has the specifics of that character. As far as he goes with it, it's like literally only the people in that room are going to know what the hell he's talking about. And so, yeah, you could just tell like fun stories. And it's like, I've toured with a few bands and it's like a fun place for me to be like, hey, like this is a fun story about being on the road that like you guys would want to hear. And like, it's cool. And it's just, it just feels like home in a way that a lot of, comedy festivals don't in the same way. Those are also fun to do, but it's just a different vibe. I feel like the comics that do Fest have like more of like a musician's heart. But it just comes out differently.
Now, Fest was a little bit smaller last year because of COVID, but I feel like it like lent itself to like being able to get around a little bit more. What acts stuck out to you last year? What shows did you see that you really enjoyed?
In Defense of Ska, we'll be right back.
Check out the Super Awesome Mix podcast. Each week, your friends Matt and Sammer make you a mixtape with a new theme. Sometimes they get help from a writer, musician, or host of another podcast. You're sure to discover a new favorite song and have a few laughs along the way. Find the Super Awesome Mix podcast wherever you get your podcasts or on the Super Awesome Mix app.
Well, I I made it a point to see, I finally saw Catbite for the first time, and I got into their No Doubt set too, which was awesome. I was very happy about that. We Are the Union. I know Reed a little bit because I've had Reed on my podcast. Finally got to see Scott Network. I've been trying to see Scott Network since the first time I went to Fest. But Jared's shows are always sold out or always like packed like an hour beforehand, because they also live in Gainesville, and they're just, always huge. So it was so nice to like be like, okay, cool. Because of COVID, I could actually go to this show.
Yeah.
And then I saw Flying Raccoon Suit for the first time. They're a great new. I don't know if they're new, but they're a new ska band to me, from Mississippi, I believe. And they were an absolute delight. And then Bully, not a ska band, but I was like very excited to actually see Bully because I just enjoy them a lot. It was just I hadn't seen Dollar Signs. Do you guys know Dollar Signs?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that band so much, and I feel like they I don't know if they like ska, but like they have a ska attitude. Like they're just like, I'm like, oh, you guys were like the smart idiots too. Like that's that very much like lines up to me. I like immediately the first time I heard them I was like, oh, I like how you're funny, and like you're very tongue in cheek about like a lot of your songs, and John Allison Weiss is a homie of mine, and I was very excited to see them as well. They're it was just a great lineup. I was so happy to finally be seeing live music again and running around, because Fest is also all these tiny venues, so it's you have an app, and on the app you pick all your favorite bands. Then you're like, okay, cool. The next band is starting in 15 minutes, but I can watch 3 songs from this band. And then I need to sprint 3 blocks to get into that venue in time to catch them. And it's just like, it just makes you feel young and fun again. And also everyone's wearing a black hoodie. So you're just like one in a weird crowd. There's something nice about being like, oh, okay. Like I'm the weirdo in the black hoodie of like all my friends here in LA. And then I show up and I'm just like, oh, good. I don't need to explain any of this to you guys. Yeah.
So you at one point opened for Against Me?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that show is interesting too, because do you know who the other opener on that show was?
The Interrupters.
Yes. Yeah. Like right when I think it was like one of their very first live shows, like playing together ever.
Oh, really? So this would have been what, like 2011, 2012?
I think so. Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a total blast. Lara Jane Grace had posted on Twitter, like the day before, she was like, hey, doing a pop-up secret show in Santa Ana, need some openers. And I just wrote back, hey, have you ever had a comedian open for you? I think it'd be a good fit. And she was like, well, send me a tape. And then I shit myself, and then sent Lara Jane Grace a tape. And then I was just pacing, just like, oh, please like this person that is a genuine hero of mine. And then, half an hour later, she was like, yeah, come on down and open for me. That'll be awesome. And it was me doing half an hour, which was one of the first times I ever even did a half an hour. And then the Interrupters, and then her was Against Me. And it was like, I needed that moment in like my comedy career. It felt really good to be like, oh, this is what I want. This is like the direction that I want things to go. And these are the people that I want to be my people. And it just felt really right. And it was, I'm still like, me and the Bavona brothers all follow each other on Instagram and like each other's stuff. And, I'm so proud to have seen how they've blown up. And it's so cool. Just to see a ska band like them, like charting, is just, it feels very extremely validating.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, wait, but we have to back up really quick though. You said tape. Did you what sort of tape? Did you actually send a physical tape or?
Oh no! I'm old, I guess, and when I say tape, I mean I sent you a YouTube link.
Okay,
but like YouTube or Vimeo is depressing up to me. Although my album is on cassette with a download code because nice. I thought vinyl feels pretentious for comedians because it's not recorded in vinyl. So, and CDs, like I don't have like I don't have like a romantic attachment to CDs, but like there are certain tapes that when I see them, they just make me happy. So I put my album out on tape.
Weird sidebar, but do you remember like back in the day when you would get a cassette tape and you would open it up, the way the J card would smell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, what is that smell? It's such a good smell.
I know. Poison. It's poison.
It's probably poison. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, most things that are bad for us are great, right?
Definitely.
I think the tape, I noticed that you had your album on tape on your website. And I think that's a great idea because not only is vinyl a little bit much for a comedian, it's expensive. It's like takes 8 months now. Tapes are inexpensive, quick, and they're actually something you can hold on to and you can probably play.
Yeah, and you can travel with a lot of them. And I mean, it's interesting. Whenever I tour the Midwest, a lot of dudes have trucks that are old trucks that still have tape players in them. And they're always like, "Oh my god, I haven't bought a new tape in forever. Hell yeah, I'm gonna listen to this." And it's like more of my tapes are actually getting played than I thought were ever going to, which is a nice surprise.
So I read that when you opened for Against Me /Interrupters, you were nervous before the show, and that you went to the Sizzler salad bar and stress ate.
Yes. Oh yeah.
True. Okay.
Oh yeah. Very true. It was me and my two friends. Well, because Santa Ana in Southern California is in Orange County, which is the land of chains, and where the observatory, which is where we played, was there was literally nothing within walking distance that wasn't a chain. And I was like, I just would like a Sizzler salad bar. We're in the land of the chains. What am I going to do? Like eat, not do this. Felt great. It worked. I had a great set. I felt really good about it.
Okay. So secret show, quote unquote. But so the people that were there how were they aware of the show?
I say secret show. They just didn't announce the lineup, but they dropped tickets like the day before.
Oh, okay.
And then I think they only sold 150, maybe 200 tops. So it was for Against Me. That's like a very small, intimate space.
Yeah, especially at that time, like 2011, 12, they were pretty big.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the first time that I had seen them since Laura had transitioned, and like. That tour, I got to see them a couple more times on it too, just because she was so happy having, that album sung back at her. And it was just such a beautiful thing to like witness, just like this person, like truly, truly living their truth and like being embraced by the fans that showed up and just, getting to be any small part of that whatsoever just is definitely a thing that I've cherished forever. But I mean, just seeing like her, like, being happy. I love to see like artists that have brought me joy, feeling joy given back to them. And I feel like rarely do you get to see it in such a big way.
Yeah. And that's my favorite album by Against Me too.
Oh, it's amazing. Have you read her autobiography or her memoir?
I have not yet, but Adam has, or he listened to it.
I listened to the audiobook.
Oh, does she read it?
Yep. It's great.
Ooh, I should listen to that. I've read it twice, I think now. And whenever I read it in like one sitting on like a rainy day. And it's such a, if you're just like an artist who like, I think is, constantly likes to check in and question yourself and like make sure that you are like living authentically to yourself, it is like an essential reading. I love it so much.
So here's a bizarre fact that I found doing research, and I want to get your take on it. So today, this episode will air in a later date than today, but today is April 26th. Mm-hmm. And according to your website, this is your comedy anniversary.
It is. Yes, it is.
All right. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. 14 years today.
14 years of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you listen to this, it'll be 14 years and change of comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you do anything special besides this podcast to celebrate your anniversary?
Got a haircut. Needed one.
I got a haircut today too.
Oh, nice. Styling.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam hates it.
I like when you look like a mad professor. It's fun.
Yeah, I no more mad professor look. I just got a normal short hair.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I have like a weird shaggy mullet right now. It's kind of nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I did that. Well, I'm getting tomorrow I have like a yard between me and my neighbor. I live in like a trailer park here in LA, and me and my neighbor have like a yard that we're getting astroturfed tomorrow. So today was like a lot of cleaning and pulling shit out of a shed and getting rid of the shed and all this stuff, and moving I own a 12-foot skeleton, and like moving this 12-foot skeleton around as I was cleaning. So, I feel like I celebrated in style.
Yeah, I've always wondered about those 12-foot skeletons. Like,
I can talk about it too much. I know this is a ska podcast, but
let's talk about the skeleton.
12-foot skeletons are very ska, I think, just themselves. Like, they have the same vibe of like a ska band. It's a Home Depot Halloween decoration that dropped 2 years ago and caused a massive frenzy. They have never produced enough because they are still sold out constantly. I am a part of 12-foot skeleton Facebook. And it's honestly, it's the best place in the world. 12-foot skeleton Facebook gives me hope about the future in a way that nothing else does, because 12-foot, like, mine is still up, and a lot of people around the country are leaving them up and changing their outfits for different holidays, because, after the last couple of years, just like the looming specter of death is just hilarious to be looking at every day, like physically in front of you. But it's amazing watching these like Midwest moms become radicalized because their HOAs are trying to get them to take down their skeletons. And it's all these moms just being like, no, you will not tell me this is oppression, and I will not be oppressed. And I believe that everybody should be able to do what they want with their own skeleton. And I'm just like, yeah, you're getting it. You're getting it, Karen. Finally.
There's hope for the future.
Yeah, exactly. But I love mine. It makes me laugh every day.
So your earliest comedy influences were ska bands.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about in an interview that specifically the in-between bits.
Yeah.
The banter, the shtick in between. Can you elaborate on that at all? Is there any specifics or any specific bands that you really stuck out to you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like Ruby Fish and Less Than Jake, my two first ones, like them especially, like, I mean, Less Than Jake they've done tours where they just like were dressed up like Bob Barker and The Price is Right and had like big wheels and just have been just super silly. And did you guys remember that tour at all? That was like years ago. I don't remember which.
I missed that one. The one that I remember, they had a wheel that they would spin, and that would pick the song. And I actually worked at the venue that they were playing at, and they shot confetti into the rafters.
Yep.
And every show after that, whenever the bass would be really heavy, it would shake confetti out of the rafters. Every single show. That. It was there forever.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the time where Adam dumped a whole bunch of confetti on me at a show.
It wasn't confetti, it was glitter.
Glitter. Oh yeah, even worse.
Yeah.
You got glitter bombs.
Dumped a whole bunch of glitter over me. And then so for 6 months, I kept finding glitter in my car, in my clothes, just in my house. And I would like scramble to clean it up because I don't want my dog to eat it.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah, I did that to you because you broke your foot.
Yeah, I broke my foot.
Well, you're living, that was the life of a comedian, or at least a sketch actor for a while. It's just glitter and wigs just all over the place. And you're like, I don't know what's happening. I have college loans. How is this my life?
How many wigs do you own, Brandie?
I've pared it down quite a bit. I probably have 7 right now.
That's a manageable amount.
Yeah, it's a manageable amount because I also, and 2 of them are like very boring wigs because right now my hair is, I'm like a brunette, but I used to dye my hair crazy colors all the time. And then every once in a while you'd have to go out for a commercial as a mom. And for some reason, casting directors don't think moms can have short blue hair. Mm-hmm. So I have this one wig that I put on, and it makes me feel like I live in Marina Del Rey and I work at like a Chevy dealership. My name is Brenda and I love vino. And I just get into character as Brenda's from time to time if I need to for an audition, because yeah.
So can you remember any Real Big Fish, like stage banter or bits that they did that were inspirational to you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, there's always like the classic, like different versions of Suburban Rhythm were always super silly and funny. Just like, I feel like when Dan was the trombone player, he was always pulling weird, dumb faces. Like Johnny and Matt Appleton, they still love to like just act out songs and just be stupid in the corner and just not even anything like real ever written bits, but like little things like whenever Aaron would be talking about introducing a song and they would call themselves masters and the band would just do these like hardcore just like masters like behind him, just like playing around with like that, just being silly and not taking themselves seriously. Like I feel like I was a person that when I was young I was always very funny with my friends, but I took everything extremely seriously. Like I remember my like t-ball coach telling me, hey, you can smile, are you having fun? And I'd be like, yes, I am having fun. And like going to see ska bands and just them being silly and dumb on stage just was like it just let me let loose in a very like, you know, anonymous way in the crowd, to be dancing around like, oh, nobody's looking at me, and just like watching people just be silly. I mean, the commentary track for Real Big Fish's first concert DVD is very funny, and it's just them like, you know, just bullshitting and telling stupid stories, and just you know, the camaraderie on that is like really, really fun. And I you know, listened to that a lot at a certain point in my life and was like, man, these guys are just funny. And it, like, looking back, it's like, oh, this is like kind of a podcast is what it feels like. Because I mean, growing up, it's like I'm from Baltimore originally. Like there was no improv to go see. There was, you know, I was an obsessive like SNL, Seinfeld, like the Upright Citizens Brigade TV show. Like, you know, like I loved watching comedy on TV, but I never saw anything live ever. And I just, going to early ska shows was the first time that I've ever like laughing at like an audience with other people at super silly stuff. And it was like, oh, I love the way this feels. I want to be in this world in some way. And I think I always loved, I've played French horn since I was in 4th grade. Because I wanted to play drums and my dad said no. And then I was like, well, which instrument is the wolf in Peter and the Wolf? And then it was the French horn.
Was that really a reasoning?
Yes, it was.
I love that.
A very goth little fourth grader that was just like, my dad was like, you're just not going to play the piccolo, are you? And I was like, no, this is the daughter that you have, goddammit.
Do you still play the French horn?
I pull it out every once in a while just to like run scales, and my range is still there. My tone is not as good as it used to be. But I could get it back pretty quickly, I think, if I really had like a reason for it. But yeah. I had like a scholarship in college for French horn, and yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. I loved music so much, but I to the point that I never wanted to make it like a career of any kind, because I never wanted to see behind the curtain completely. Comedy I always loved and was like, yeah, I don't give a shit, I'll ruin that for myself, that's fine.
You established that Real Big Fish was your first show. Less Than Jake was another early band you like. Was there a local scene? Like, were there local bands that you were aware of?
So I grew up like 45 minutes outside of DC and like half an hour from Baltimore. And until I was a senior, I couldn't go into the city without my mom coming with me. So I also just didn't know how to find a lot of local shows. Like I guess the Pie Tasters are probably at that point the closest thing to a local band. I guess they are. To me, they were like such a big deal that I don't consider them like a local band. But I would see them literally anytime they played, whenever I absolutely could. And then I had a lot of friends in high school that played bands, so like that were in bands. So I like went to see like their stuff, like this band Dead Letter and On the Flat Side, OFS. I don't know if you guys have heard of them or not. And well, my friends that were in Dead Letter, they actually were very inspired by Goldfinger. and they would do stunts because our friend Charlie, he worked at the bagel bakery, and he would bring all the bagels and croissants after work to their shows. And at one point in their show, they would just throw all this pastry out into the audience, and then we would like skank and have like a food fight in the middle, and they would never play that venue again. But they were a blast. They were just super fun and silly. Oh, I also I never saw them because they didn't get together until after they graduated. But Billy Martin went to high school 2 years ahead of me, and he is one of the guitar players in Good Charlotte.
Wow.
Just very weird and funny. I remember being like, Billy Martin. And then I would look back at my old yearbook, and I have like a yearbook where he's the senior, and he's like got like dreads, and he's wearing like a button up like plaid shirt. And it's like, So I guess after graduation is when the Nightmare Before Christmas tattoo is kicked in.
Do you remember how you discovered like the greater world of ska beyond like, what was on the mainstream stuff?
Yeah, I think it was from just really when I moved to Philly for college is like when I started seeing a lot more of bands that like the East Coast had to offer. Because, and then it was, I'm a hero because I get to the show when it starts, and I watch the openers.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Yes. Yeah. So not to toot my own trumpet or anything, my own French horn, but
French horn, yes.
But yeah, I mean, like Catch 22 was like the opener for literally everybody that came through Philadelphia. And then I remember like seeing like the Planet Smashers and Slackers and like Vic Ruggiero playing by himself. There's this band called the World Inferno Friendship Society that I was obsessed with for a long time. They're like a goth cabaret band. And I don't know if you guys consider them ska or not, but they were, if you had like a shtick, I was pretty into you and still am. Like Andrew WK, he's another person like the 12-Foot Skeleton. Andrew WK is ska, but not ska. I think to me, he embodies the same like weirdo positivity.
Yeah, I can.
And I remember I saw Andrew WK on September 11th, 2002 in Philadelphia. And it's like the best concert I've ever been to in my life, because I remember like he turned I Love New York City into like a 20-minute encore. And he was just like, a year ago, we lost a lot of people who can't party anymore. And we never know when you're not going to be able to party. And goddamn it, you just got to party every day as if it's the last day you could party. So tonight we're going to party for the 3,000 people we lost last year. And it was just blew the roof off. It was the most cathartic concert I've ever had. There was just like steelworkers just like sobbing. We're all dancing together, just like, music is going to fix it. I mean, 20 years later, the war on terror is still happening. But it was a great night.
That's a great story too, because that could have so easily gone south. Like it could so easily been taken as just being entirely inappropriate.
Oh, for sure. But I think it's just that like he genuinely meant it. He wasn't being tongue in cheek. He genuinely was like, someday we won't be able to party. And then the way that you have to just like find the positivity every day. Skank a little bit every day.
Yeah, skank a little bit, says Andrew WK. The subtext.
Yes, exactly.
Of Andrew WK.
Yeah.
Did you start comedy in LA, or did you start comedy before you moved to LA?
I started stand-up in LA. So I went to school for filmmaking because I just was like, I want to work in movies somehow, because I was like a massive Jim Carrey fan as a kid, and like the scene in Ace Ventura 2 where he comes out of the rhino's butt is like a very defining moment in my life. I would put it that, and like hearing them sound check like the bass for Real Big Fish, that first concert, are like very similar seminal moments in my life. Basically, I think Ace Ventura coming out of a rhino's butt is also ska. I would put that in the same category.
All right.
Yes, I think that is also a very ska moment. But I knew ever since like then I was like, I want to work in comedy in some capacity. I don't know what that means at time, because I wasn't a huge stand-up fan growing up. I mean, most of the stand-up that was on TV at the time was just weirdo, like just like dudes with like backwards baseball caps that were just like broy and just like, women fucking suck. And I was just like, I don't want to know any of those people. And 14 years into comedy, I was right about that. But then I like during college, I got really into like seeing a lot of like sketch shows and like seeing like the kind of stand-ups crossover, like your Mr. Shows and like your Bob and Davids and things like that. And from there, I kind of like fell into watching a lot of like the alt comedy world and seeing like your Patton Oswalds, like your Maria Bamfords, your Paul F. Tompkins, and people like that. And like I loved them. And I remember during college, when you go to Drexel in Philadelphia, you move out to LA you have 6 months to go on like an internship, basically, where it's like it's your job to get a job for 6 months. So I moved out to LA, and that's really when I started going to like the UCB theater had just opened in LA, and I was seeing, like I was seeing insane lineups every night for $5. It's just crazy looking back and being like, oh, I'd pay $5 and I would see like Scott Aukerman and Patton Oswalt and like Kyle Kinane and Matt Bronger and like and Maria Bamford and like Laurie Kilmartin all like in one night and it would be amazing. And I was like, I remember very specifically, actually, I remember Paul F. Tompkins making a joke and referencing the specials. And I was like,
interesting.
oh, this guy's cool. Like he gets it. And I was like, oh, I think I could hang with these people. Like this feels like comedy that is like in a similar like mindset of mine. Like I feel like, oh, we have the same references. You're not like a weird like bottle service bro. Like that world is very like not something I want to be a part of. But like these comics, this feels like home to me. And then so during that 6 months I moved out here, and I kind of really fell in love with like it's called alt stand-up, but it's just stand-ups that certain kinds of stand-ups like that. Those terms don't apply quite as much anymore. But at the time, that was the like the DIY comics of like that era who just like were like, the clubs aren't booking us, so we're going to go run our own spaces somewhere else. And that has always been such a big part of my ethos of just, I'll build it if it's not there. I've always just been like, okay, well, I'll just go do this over here then. That's fine. I'm not going to wait around for you to do it for me. And then I moved back to Philly to finish school, and I took like sketch classes up in New York at the UCB like once a week. And like I just really started gobbling up every stand-up album I could at that point that was like in that weird, like that's when I found like Bill Hicks and things like that. It was like after I turned 21. And then I moved back out to LA, and I still had not even performed as a stand-up. And but I loved like the writing of it, and I would work on scripts and stuff after being a PA all day and being told to clean up puke and all this dumb stuff on set. And then I work on scripts, but I just like wasn't meeting anybody that wasn't just in production. And like production people are great, but I was just like, this isn't the world I want to be in. And then I started just being like, you know what, you have some funny stories. Let's start going to like open mics, and maybe you'll meet people that like the comics that you love. Like you'll meet like your generation's versions of that, basically. And that very much kind of became like my world and my community out here in LA.
Yeah, I remember when alt comedy was sort of this big thing, like when they did the comedians of comedy.
Yep.
Like that was Patton Oswalt and Brandie Posey, Maria Bamford, Zach. Yeah, so I remember that was the moment, and from my point of view, where it seemed like there was this big push towards this thing called alt comedy. But yeah, it doesn't seem like the line is as definitive as it was at that point.
No, it's like we all kind of play whatever. I think now it's very like not ideally you want to be able to work in both worlds, and it's like clubs like me, and I do well at them whenever a club owner will actually book me. But unfortunately, most club owners, when they like, for whatever reason, I think when they see me, they're like, oh, you remind me of the daughter that doesn't come home for Thanksgiving anymore. So a lot of club owners are not good people.
Yeah.
So I think it's like those lines don't really exist as much anymore because you just want to be a working comic that just works wherever. But, it's just kind of like more of an ethos of like just a certain, kind of comic and who just is going to play wherever. Like I know there's some people that are just like, if it's not at a club, I'm not going to play it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting that you think I'm glad you were handed whatever you were handed. Have fun with that.
Now, do you remember Paul F. Tompkins' specials joke?
I don't. I was actually trying to think of it earlier today. I think it was more just like a throwaway like riff reference or something. And I was like, what? He knows what the specials are? Because like I just didn't have a lot of like good friends that really did. I like when I moved out to LA, I had like some like Ska Live Journal friends or whatever, but they all lived in Orange County. I remember moving out here and being like, oh man, Orange County. Wow. That's where it all came from. And then you drive around and you're like, Orange County. All right. Well, there's another Taco Bell.
So your Lady to Lady, your podcast?
Yep.
This started as a live show initially, right? Wait, do you know what year all of this happened?
10 years ago, actually. This is our 10-year anniversary for Lady to Lady. Actually, you know what? It's funny. Today, April 26th, 10 years ago, was Lady to Lady's very first live show.
Wow. So it happened on your 4-year comedy anniversary.
Yep, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's Lady to Lady started as like a weird Eric Andre style talk show with like me, Tess Barker, and Babs Gray. The three of us are female comics. We'd met through open mics and kind of came up in the trenches together and everything. And we just wanted to do have like weirdo interviews. We found like Craigslist talent. Like we had this guy that like would lip sync Michael Jackson songs and sign language them and be dancing all at the same time. That was just like a weirdo. And like we were always trying to have just like a weirdo acts that like public accessy as possible. And we always had like a sketch that would run throughout the whole show. Like I remember we did one that was one of us found a coffee cup on the stage that somebody had left, and we rubbed it to see the name on it. And then a Starbucks genie came out who could only grant like Starbucks wishes, basically. And like the first wish was like a John Mayer CD, and the second wish was like a Fergo refill on my chai latte. And then I remember the genie being like, "Let's go for something real." I remember being like, I wish to get rid of pumpkin spice. I'm done. And then the genie just laughs maniacally and evilly, because without pumpkin spice, like, does fall even exist? And if fall doesn't exist, does school even start? And then we had like a CEO bust in from the future with like a boombox, and he's like, "I'm a Starbucks CEO from the future. You have no idea what you've done." And he like rewound the entire show, and we just like backed up for like 2 minutes straight. And then like we came out, and then we come back in to start the show, and the CEO like shot me in the head. So that's what like early lady shows were like. And then we started doing the podcast about 6 or 7 months in, because we were a monthly show, and we would work so hard on these like big sketches and everything. And we get 15 people out. And we're like, sure. Oh, we just killed ourselves for nobody. Oh my God. And we thought, well, we also should be working on our banter, and like, it would be good if we were on mic together more than just once a month, basically. So we started the podcast, and like, we have, every week it's like we have a guest on, who's usually another female comic, but we break from time to time. We've had a bunch of guys on too, but that's kind of the crux of the show. And it's just for comics, just like riffing, having a good time, and, doing some weirdo characters every once in a while. And then we have like some like games we play with guests, and then we answer some advice for the listeners, because all three of us have made a lot of mistakes, so we have a lot that we can speak to.
So when you had Reed on last year, was that your first ska guest? In Defense of Ska, we'll be right back.
Welcome to Bring Receipts. I'm Brandie Collins-Dexter.
And I'm Steven Renderos. We're two longtime friends who share a passion for pop culture, but we can't seem to agree on anything.
So we use this podcast to settle our debates on our most unpopular opinions from the last 4 decades of pop culture.
Like, I think Tanya Harding was the most infamous athlete of the 90s.
Like how OJ killed his wife in the 90s.
He had already retired from football, so technically not an athlete.
That's messed up. That's also why we need this podcast. Every episode, we invite our most interesting friends to judge our debates.
But in order to win, we must bring receipts.
Let me think about that. I think so, yeah.
And were you the person that booked that?
Oh, yeah, that was for sure. That was for sure me. That was, oh, no, actually, that's not true. We had, is it Layla from Sonic Boom 6?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, you had Layla? Okay. Layla K?
Layla Laser K. We had her on because Babs and I we did a special Warped Tour episode a few years before where we did like 15-minute chunks with her, with the lead singer of Dollskin, and two of the gals from Bad Cop, who like I've toured with them a bunch now too. And we just did like a fun episode. Also, it was very fun being at Warped Tour because Babs had never been to one before, because my two co-hosts, they're amazing. I love them, but like they are of like they love pop music. And I'm always like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And they're like, we don't know what the hell you're talking about. People like what we like. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fair. But I remember walking around with Babs at Warped Tour, and we had like a recorder, we had a microphone, and it was the year that there's this band called the Black Veil Brides, and their lead singer is this guy named Andy Black, who is just this like, he's like a goth Justin Bieber. He's just like a very handsome baby goth Justin Bieber. And like when they opened the gates at Warped Tour, all these girls like screamed and ran to his tent so they could get tickets to like meet him in line. And Babs is like, what is happening? And I was like, there's heartthrobs that we don't know about anymore, man. We're old. This feels great. So he just kept walking around to like girls and being like, tell us about Andy Black. What about Andy Black? Is he like Andy Dick? Like who is this guy?
Is he like Andy Dick?
Yeah. I hope
that, what a heartthrob Andy Dick is.
He's a throbbing something, that's for
Hey.
sure.
Was the We Are the Union album, was that something that hit you? Something that you liked a lot when it came out?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I had heard a few of their songs before, and then just like hadn't done like a deep dive on them yet. And then when the new one came out, Morbid Sessions, I was like, oh, this is like a solid ass album. This is great. And it's just very exciting seeing like the next gen of ska bands like really killing it and doing it. And just I think it's important for people to like be looking for new music and supporting new bands, because especially now, it's like live touring bands are on such a shoestring at this point, especially with like everything with COVID and everything, that it's like, I kind of, now that I'm a little bit more established and can spend a little bit more money on things that aren't just like the basic necessities, I like to try to put money in like the pockets of like these kind of bands, because it's harder because they're not making the streaming money that or like making the album sales that bands used to. I mean, there's barely any money in streaming. I mean, I'm thankful, like I have stuff in rotation on Sirius XM like from my album, but like bands, especially bands like ska bands, aren't gonna be getting that kind of money coming in, and you're getting fractions of a penny from the streaming places. So it's like important to be buying and supporting, and these bands all have great aesthetics too. It's very exciting seeing, like, I think the new bands have moved away from the Gildan t-shirts, and it feels great to just see that evolution happen in the new wave as well.
Yeah. Adam and I saw We Are the Union at Bottom of the Hill in San Francisco, with Eichler's opening, and 2:30 is the first opening act.
Nice.
And the show was great, but I really loved seeing that it was this packed house.
Yeah.
All the bands had an aesthetic and a presence that was, in my mind, different and divorced from that sort of 90s thing.
Yep.
And the audience had it too. It was like a different generation of ska. And it felt like really awesome that it was like not derivative or not like so overtly connected to it. Like it was like, this is our thing. This is how we do it. This is how we look. This is how we write songs. This is how we perform songs. It's just like, really exciting to me. I mean, I've been a fan of them for a while, but that specific live show was very exciting to me for that reason.
Yeah, they were. It's so exciting just to see, the evolution of like you always hoped for a fourth wave, and it's exciting to be like, ooh, oh wow, look at this. Number one, I feel very validated that like ska's back in a fun way, and I know what a freedom that live ska shows were for me as a kid, and like the Gen Z versions of me, I'm so happy that they have like their version of that too. I mean, like live music just felt like such freedom and community and just acceptance in a way that like, nothing else did in high school. I mean, it's like I had friends I went to shows and stuff with from time to time, but it's like even just I just saw Flogging Molly on St. Patrick's Day. Ooh, also they had a great opener. They had this Russian ska band called Ruska Ska that was amazing. Yeah. They were a delight.
I love that band, and the closest to that show came to me was Oakland. I live in Sacramento, so that would have been an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I was this close to driving to Oakland to see that show, despite being incredibly tired and not wanting to. Yeah. And I just couldn't quite get myself to do it. And I was and it was their first time in the USA.
First time in the US. And honestly, they were great. That show was, that was March 17th. That was less than a week after everything with Ukraine started popping off. And like, they are so sweet and positive, and like the lead singer had tied like a peace sign, self-made flag to his mic stand, because he was like, we know our banner is like Russian. It is like Russian as shit. It's just like it just looks like the Cold War. And he was just like, no, we believe in peace. And just watching them win over a room with the power of Russian ska, and like everybody was dancing and having fun. And I haven't seen an opening band like turn a room like that in quite a while. Even at that show, it was like me and there was a couple people standing behind me that we just like all were skanking together. And there's something so beautiful and pure of like the show relationships that last for like an hour and a half, and you'll never meet each other. You'll never know each other's names, and you're just going to dance with each other and have fun and smile and like high five. And then you'll disappear and never see each other again. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see, you have your album Opinion Cave. Is that your only album, right?
It's my only album for now.
For now,
that is. Yeah. I'm ready. I was going to record another one in 2020, and then pandemic. But I'm kind of like getting everything back on its feet a little bit, and hopefully I'm going to record one before the year is over. Now, I've also produced 2 compilation albums, because like the first one is called Burn This Election, and the second one is called Burn This Pandemic, and that one is hasn't been released yet, but we just recorded it about a month ago, and I'm working on all the parts for it now. And what we would ideally, and I told myself I was not allowed to fully do this until I was in my 40s, is I want to start a record label that is just compilation albums for stand-up around certain topics and like topical moments, basically.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, because it's stuff that is never going to be on somebody's like actual album. Like the Burn This Election one, we put it out on Election Day 2016. We recorded it a week before, not even a week before. We recorded it at like literally the night that the Cubs won the World Series. We were at a house party, and that was the night that we recorded that album. And it's like 23 comedians doing like 3 to 5 minutes each of just like their election material. That at that point we were like, well, never gonna talk about Trump again. Woo! It's a very fun time capsule moment for sure. And it's just like, it's just super fun. And you get to hear people that might not have like a full hour themselves yet, but like they can crush for that 3 minutes. There's some people are excited to be on that thing. And just like, I love I loved like those like Fueled by Ramen and stuff, like compilations as a kid. That's also how I found a lot of music. I mean, I definitely would find new bands off of those things. And so I kind of wanted to bring that kind of vibe to stand up. And it's like, well, having different topics seems like the thing to do. And each of the albums, they also raise money for different charities too, because like I don't need like the money that's coming off of those. So, but I own the rights. So all the artists, they make their artist money, and then all the rights owner money that gets donated for Burn This Election. It all goes to RAIN. And for Burn This Pandemic, it will all go to SELA, which here in Los Angeles, like works with like the houseless community. And we need all the help we can get with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In just before the 2016 election,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing an article on these two comedians here in Sacramento who were friends of mine, and they remain friends, Keith Lowell Jensen and Johnny Taylor.
Oh yeah, I know them.
Okay, so they had a gig in like Modesto or Merced, which is some whatever rural town, quote unquote rural town out here in California, and so it was so tense because it was like the election was coming. And they had that exactly what you're talking about. They're just like, oh, I can't wait for this.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to stop talking about Trump.
Yeah.
We're almost there. But it was like, the show was so weird. Like they would just do jokes where it was like about work,
Mm-hmm.
big laugh.
Mm-hmm.
They even hinted at Trump, get like either boos
Crickets
or crickets. Super uncomfortable. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just remember feeling like, I can't stand this sort of this vibe that we've kind of that we're in now, of this election period.
Yeah, and it's frustrating too, because it's like even before that, I mean, before Trump, it's like Republicans did have a sense of humor about themselves. More,
Yeah,
they kind of did, and then Trump really like. I think it's because they just all like became narcissists like him to a certain degree as well.
Well, he has absolutely no sense of humor about himself at all.
Do you know that when he did the because there's a Comedy Central roast of Donald Trump, the only thing that he said was off topic was saying that he was not as rich as he said that he was. He said that you can make fun of my family, I don't give a shit about any of them, you can make fun of my hair, whatever, you do not say that I am not as rich as I say that I am.
Oh God.
It's like, okay, you child, I guess you'll be president for 4 years. God. Nightmare.
On your website description for Opinion Cave, I see stuff about referring to you as a riot girl style comedian and a punk comedian. No mention of you being a ska comedian, even though the cover is you in a checkered dress.
Yeah, exactly. I
don't need to say it, right?
I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I also, a lot of those are like pull quotes from other people. And, I, when I recorded Opinion Cave, I didn't know Ian yet, because he would have called me a ska comedian, I think. But a lot of people would be like, punk, I think, maybe, right?
Punk, yeah.
Right. These are things that I know. I'm like, I believe in journalistic integrity, so I will not change your quotes.
Just cross it out.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm a ska comedian for sure. In my heart, I am. Once a marching band kid, always a marching band kid.
Sure. You had the let's see, Ronald Reggae. You had the Ronald Reggae joke.
Yeah. Yep.
Ronald Reggae is tell us about Ronald Reggae.
So my least favorite president, well, this is funny because this joke was written before Trump was president. Although I think Reagan has actually done worse than Trump potentially.
Yeah.
I think he's because I don't think you get Trump without Ronald Reagan. That's not part of the joke. That is just me thinking out loud. That's me just sadly contemplating the reality of America. But I think the bit is done in a while. It's like, oh, my least favorite president is Ronald Reagan, but my favorite president is Ronald Reggae. You guys know him. He was all like, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall and then pick it up, boy.
How did that joke land with your general audience?
I mean, I think they could follow me, but I would I'd always find one person to make eye contact with, just to be like, you're gonna fucking laugh at this one. This is just for me. This is for me. Because I do have like small jokes that in my act that I'm like, I don't care if you don't like it. This makes me laugh to say every night, and it's fun for me. And you'll like enough of the rest that I can have one too. But it kills it fast. It kills it fast.
It kills it fast. Do you have any? Do you have any jokes? Let's go back to Fest. Any Fest specific jokes that you only tell at Fest?
Yeah, I have a story of so I tour with a group of like female punk singers called the Vagabondies Roadshow, and it is a couple of girls from Bad Cop, a couple of girls from the Bomb Pops, and then our friend Jillian that lives in Chicago, and a few other gals, and we do like an hour and a half show that is like I'm the MC of the whole thing, and I kind of just do jokes in between, and it's just like acoustic punk, and then there's like covers, and it's just like a very fun night. We do like smaller venues, and we kind of tour that whole thing together. But I cannot go through Arizona without either seeing a fight or the one time we were there as the Vagabondies being in a fight, because there was like the night we get to town. And I tell this story at Fest because most audiences are like, what are you even talking about? But this is like a very Fest specific story where like we get to town and the venue is like stoked to have us. And they're like, hey, we had a band call us earlier today, and they were going to play a house party in town. Their house party fell through. They were wondering if they could play after you guys. And we were like, yeah, sure. That's fine. We are a 90-minute show. And if you guys are open afterwards, they're more than welcome to do whatever. We don't care. We just, that sucks. Their gig got canceled. Come on down. That sounds fun. So we're setting up. And then this just like little band of heathens walks in. And they're punk studded to the gills, little babies from Denver driving their mom's minivan. And literally the lead singer had like the van key hanging from a carabiner in their ear. Like that was like, there's such a look, there's such like a vibe. And I'm just like, you like not ska. These guys are not ska whatsoever. This is very un-ska behavior, this entire story. So like we're doing our show. We're watching them. Like they're just in the back watching, just like arms crossed, just like, ugh, I can't believe we have to watch these like old women perform. And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like these are incredibly accomplished musicians. We're having a good night. I'm sorry we did a fucking Fleetwood Mac cover. Like whatever, it's fun. And like so we finished. We have a great show. We're doing merch. We're like hanging out, like talking to people, and like we'd brought a pretty great crowd. So just hanging out. This band, they'll go unnamed because I'm not going to blow their spot up because they're children and maybe they've grown since then. But they start setting up, they start sound checking, and their sound check is so loud and just bad. And just their music, it just sounded like baby bird punk to me, where it's just like a baby bird's nest, just like, like that's what was happening, screaming. And so they're sound checking and then they get ready, and everyone that has been hanging out with us, and they're like, okay, well, we're not going to watch that, and have a good night. Thanks for a good show. And we're packing up and like, all right, well, we'll stay and we'll watch a few songs before we go back to the hotel. We've been on tour. We're tired. They start their set to virtually no one. There's nobody really left. Like they hadn't brought anybody, whatever. They make it, I would say 45 seconds into their first song. And then like the song falls apart and the drummer just like kicks over the snare drum and the bass player is just like, oh, fuck this, where is everybody? And then the lead singer just kicks the mic stand over. Like they just are tearing their shit apart on stage, and they're using our microphones because they did not have their own microphones. We were like, no, you can't wreck gear because you're sad you don't have an audience. I don't know how to tell you, don't do that. Don't do that. Please stop. And so they're just like, ugh. And then one of them pulled out their phone and was like Instagram living this like empty pit. It was just like, where's your scene, Phoenix? Where's your scene? just like a weird, what are you angry about? This is so crazy. So the two bouncers comes in and like they start like picking up these kids to be like, okay. And like, they're kicking our microphones and we're like, all right, you guys are done. We're start taking the mics off. We're just like, okay, we tried to be nice and gave you a show. Maybe this is why your house party canceled. We're trying not to engage. They start calling the bouncers Nazis, just over and over again, just like Nazis. Then they started calling us cunts, and then they started calling us Nazi cunts because we were taking their microphones from them, which were our microphones. And, I should not have done this, but I did just start chanting, "Where are your parents? Where are your parents? Where are your parents?" And then I think it was the bass player just goes, "My parents are fucking dead." And I went, "Good for them." And then this bass player starts running at me, but a bouncer just grabbed them by their little baby neck and just put them under their arms and then threw them outside. And like they're outside, they're screaming, they're fighting a bouncer. And then Jenny, one of the gals in Back Up, she's rolling up their banner, which was just like an adorable little banner that they had made. And then just rolled it up to go take it to them because they didn't have much other gear that was still there. And she's like pushing it past the bouncer. And then one of them gets their fist past the bouncer and punches Jenny in the face.
Oh, jeez.
And we were like, and then Jenny comes back in, and Jenny is such a sweetheart, and she has like the personality of like a second grade teacher. She bakes cakes. She's a beautiful artist. She's an amazing songstress. She's awesome and just such a sweet, awesome person. I love her. And she comes in and she's like, "One of them struck me," and I was like, "What? They hit you?" Because the whole time too, we're also like, these are 19-year-olds. We are women in our mid-30s. We could destroy them if we touched them. We can't, because you have a certain rage in your 30s that you do not have at 19 when you've seen some shit. And it was just like, I don't want to hit you with all of the no's that I have heard in my life. Like, that's what will happen if you come up near me. So we were all just like, just de-escalate, leave the kids alone. And then the lead singer with his little carabiner in his ear comes in through the other entrance of the place. And he starts just like walking in a circle in the middle with his little iPhone, like Instagramming by himself. And he's just like, "These stupid Nazi cunts, fuck you, Phoenix," just like being a nightmare. And it's just like getting up in everyone's face. And we're all like, just don't hit them, just leave them. They will leave soon. And one of the bouncers comes in and he takes this kid down. And then I saw my moment and I walked up behind him and I stomped on his ankle as hard as I could 4 times in a row. And just like, nobody will see this. I'm a woman in my 30s. No one, it's fine. I'm going to hurt this fucking kid because he hit one of us pretty bad. And he's just, ow, ow, ow. And I just like kind of, in my brain, I kind of skanked away, but I know I walked away. But that felt like a ska moment in a very non-ska situation. And then they got thrown out, and then the venue was like, "Do you guys want to press charges?" Because cops were there already, and we're like, "No, we don't like cops. We don't like this. But whatever is about to happen outside, if they're responsible for it, they will get arrested by whatever happens next. That's up to them." But we didn't press charges or anything. And then they were like, we just hear them fighting outside with these police. And I was like, well, you're going to get thrown in like a jail cell overnight or something. Good luck with that. And and then the next day we went to a nice brunch and a yoga class before we went to the next city. And that's what touring with a bunch of women is like.
So you don't have to tell us the name of the band, obviously, but are they still a band?
Oh, let me find out.
You don't have to tell us the name of the band, but you have to tell us the name of the band.
I mean, I'll tell you if you bleep it. I'll tell you guys after the podcast.
We'll tell off air. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they have two. No, their last release was a split in 2019, and they had a demo in 2018. I can't imagine they were able to collaborate with each other for very long. Because they're
or whether the pandemic.
Yeah. I can't imagine much good happened. But yeah, it looks like that 2019 tour was probably their only tour. It's fun. they're funny. They're a little bit hard to Google because of the name of the band, but I'll tell you about them later.
Thank you so much for listening to In Defense of Ska. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you normally stream or download episodes. If you haven't already, grab a copy of my book, In Defense of Ska, available at clashbooks.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. It's at In Defense of Ska. And please consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/indefenseofska. You will get monthly bonus episodes, extended interviews and commentary per episode, and access to the In Defense of Ska Discord. In Defense of Ska would not be possible without the great team that tirelessly works on it every week. So you should go check out their other projects as well. Co-host Adam Davis has an amazing band called Omnigon. Give them a follow on Instagram and Twitter. It's simply at Omnigon. And our editor, Chris Reeves, has a phenomenal record label and podcast called Ska Punk International. For more information, go to skapunkinternational.com. And if you've ever enjoyed one of the highly specific In Defense of Ska memes floating around the interwebs, it was likely the work of The Bands I Like Only Charge $18. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And on that note, we leave you by saying, Ska now more than ever.
Are you in a band with a new album coming out? Are you an artist wanting more people to check out your work? Is there an event you want to promote? Do you own or run a company that sells a cool product or service? In Defense of Ska gets over 10,000 unique downloads each month. If you're interested in advertising on the podcast, we offer very reasonable rates and can help with the production of the ad. The ads are dynamic, meaning they will be placed on every episode for a given period of time. If you're interested, direct message us or email us at indefenseofska